Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. I had a little bit of a technical glitch. I normally have a countdown timer going. It wasn't working, and I started to panic, but I was able to get things rolling. So I hope you're hearing me okay. It is, technology, so sometimes things just don't work out the way we want. I welcome you to my garage, my humble abode. This is the shop where I do all my work. I do a lot of welding, grinding, fabrication, rust repair, whatever I need to do to try to get cars back together. As you all know, this is all I'm doing right now. And if you're new to my live stream, I encourage you to be involved. Now, this has been going on for years now. I know that back whenever the pandemic came about, I started doing more live streams, I believe, at that time. And I've just maintained that. So it's been every Monday night at 7 o'clock, unless there's something else going on that takes me away from it that I just can't get away from. So it's been interesting. We've had a lot of conversations. I think we've helped a lot of people over the years. As we continue to do this, the idea is that I can help people with problems they may have. And if I can't, then there's people over in the chat box that can always chime in and give good sound advice as well. So if you're new here, I encourage you to be involved. Otherwise, welcome to everybody else. I hope you had a good weekend and a good week last week. I know we've had some pretty decent weather. We could use some rain. That's just how it goes. We always have the pros and cons. Either we have rain and don't want it, or we don't have rain and we feel like we need it. So hopefully before too long we get some rain around here and it makes things a little better. But it's been great. The weather's been fantastic. Good evenings, nice and cool. I like to go for walks in the evenings, and so I've been able to put in plenty of miles walking up and down my street and getting whatever exercise in that I can when I'm not out here doing this stuff. As you saw in the last video with the Fangled Fastback, I have the sides on. I have the bottoms welded at the A pillar and the B pillar and to the inner structure. And when I left off last week, I was talking about fitting the roof and the rain gutters. So I've been working on that as of now and trying to resolve those things. I did mention that the idea is, at least at this point, that I want to have everything ready and done except for the roof. Now that may change, but the intent is that I can put the roll cage in the car with the roof off. I think it's just going to make more sense to do that and then button everything up. So I'm trying to get everything aligned and working, together. There are some adjustments I'm doing on the rain gutters to try to get them a little tighter. And everything else is starting to fit really nice in the back. I have the quarters back on the car, and overlaps and everything are looking really good. So pretty excited about where I'm at in the process. So if you have any any questions about what's going on or anything with this car or whatever, I encourage you to be part of it. And if you're, as I said, as you're new to my live stream, I tend to talk about, for the most part, classic cars. Ranging from 1955 to about 1980. And sometimes we stray off the course. We start talking about movies and different things like that. But that's okay. It's all part of the brotherhood of the car, let's say. So let's see who's here tonight. The first one in tonight is Rick Stevenson. Whoops, wait. There you go. Rick is my coffee guru. He says, sorry, I can't make the live stream tonight. I'm on the road. Well, I'll take my first sip of coffee. And you're on it, Rick. So, appreciate you. Dave Tyson, good evening all. Evening, Dave, our first Dave sighting. Terry Keithley, hello, Barry and everyone. Please hit the thumbs up and like button. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. Thank you, Terry and Betty. Also, a couple of my patrons there, so thank you again for that. TJ, let the cars and coffee begin. Good evening, Barry and everyone from East Dublin, Georgia. where the field of Mustang dreams live again. Well, welcome, TJ. Glad you're here. Richard Vogel, another patron. Good evening, Barry. 68 degrees on Long Island. Perfect working on a car weather. Yeah, I agree. That is ideal. Hope all is well up in New York. Brian Francis, log on. Maybe he means logged on. I don't know. Welcome, Brian. I don't feel like I've seen your name before. So glad you're here. Hope you have something you want to talk about tonight, maybe. Jiggy, evening all, doing some prep work for Mustangs to Fear front end this evening while reviewing the Brooklyn Pony series. That's a good thing to review. And good luck with putting the front end together. Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, evening all. Nice short break from misery season, for a day or two before summer starts, and it's mid to high 90s all week. Can't wait till fall in a couple months. Yes. Yeah, fall is a great time of year. It really is. I can't complain about right now, though. The weather is fantastic, so I'm enjoying what I have. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, David. Hope all is well with you. Jerry's Garage and Money Pit. Good evening to all from Middle Tennessee. Welcome, Jerry. Glad you're here. Troy Justit. Hey, from coastal Georgia. The temperature is a balmy 76. It was perfect working weather until my gas ran out. Time for a new bottle. Okay. Well, glad you're here, Troy. I'm guessing you mean when you say gas, you're talking about your welding gas, I'm assuming. Because I had that same situation. I was welding this together, the last series, and I had done the welds on that A-pillar up on top, and I did like 2 welds on this side, and that was it. I was out of gas, so I had to go run and get some more, which is not a big deal. But yeah, can't do much welding without welding gas. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. Hope you all have a good car talk. Whoop. Let's hope so. Nandu. Good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Likewise, Nandu. Glad you're here. Steve Reed. You know where he's from. Hello, Barry and everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. And give Barry a thumbs up. Yes. Let me get that. There we go. He's from Paducah, Kentucky. I just like saying Paducah, so you get that. Dave Conville, another Dave sighting. Good evening, all. Checking in from New Jersey. Hindsight 6'7", Roger. Greetings from right next door. Welcome, Roger. Hey, Matco Man. Hello, everyone. Hello, sir. Glad you're here. Steel Ponies Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. It's very helpful and great to watch. Well, thank you, Jeff. I don't know if you've been here before, so welcome to the chat. Terry Keithley, hey, Jerry, go Buckeyes. Yes, I had some Buckeyes last week. They were pretty good. Chocolate and peanut butter. Yes, I like them. They're good. Rusty's Restoration, hello all, and Barry from Southern Indiana. Fangled is coming together nicely. Everyone give a thumbs up. Yes, by all means. Steve Reed, the 68 fastback is shaping up and looking great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree. It's coming along. Richard, how did you obtain the frame measurements for Fangled? The frame measurements. Well, I haven't done any frame measuring. I have my trailer jig that I use, use for the other cars. And so basically, when I set it on the jig, it's already lined up. There's nowhere for it to go. So that's what sets all the points moving forward. And then, of course, I have my front sections here, which are all, I can bolt them in and unbolt them and do different things. So there's no, I do take measurements. Let's put it that way. I have an original 68 car sitting over there, and I have a 67 car sitting over there outside. And so if I need something, just a verification measurement, I will take some measurements off of those cars as far as like the front end. The rest of it, I'm not too worried about because it's pre-built. You know, the floor pan's already built, frame rail's already in. I can't change the mount points or anything like that. So that's all a given. But from up here, I can take measurements off of the original cars that I have and make sure that the, you know, like the drop dimension, say from the front of the cowl to the front of the core support, you know, check that dimension, stuff like that, make sure it's within range as far as that goes. But that's why it's nice to have a couple of spare cars sitting around. Good question. Mr. Mikey, greetings all. Nice cooler day in sunny South Texas. Expecting morning lows in the upper 60s. That does sound nice. I know the nice part with us is we're able to have our windows open, get some fresh air coming in the house. That's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. Windows open. You know, my hat's on crooked, I think. The other day, we were having a really nice day. And it was one of those days where the temperature was right. The smell of whatever's outside, vegetation, trees, grass, all those things were just right there. And it triggered one of those memories for me. And that's a really good thing about having, you know, good memories of certain events. But it took me right back to my grandmother's house and having the windows open at her place and having the wind blowing through and smelling the grass or whatever. And it was just like this brief moment where I was back to being, I don't know, 10 years old, 8 years old, something like that, and at my grandmother's house. And I was like, I sure do miss that. You know, it's fun. It's fun to think or remember those events, but the, you know, being an adult isn't nearly as much fun as being a kid and having your grandmother cook you lunch, right? It's just not quite the same. I'd much rather be there than doing any of this. I'd rather hang out with my grandmother and enjoy some home cooked meals with her. So, but it was just one of those things, you know. Michael, Pagliarini, evening all. Evening, Michael. Glad you're here. I know you're up in the New England area, Connecticut or something like that. Richard, I didn't know you had an extra 68 Mustang laying around. It seems you have one or two of everything. Pretty much. I have a 67, the 68, and the 69, so I can reference them anytime I need to. And if nothing else, I could go. I've got other friends who have these cars, and if I have to, I can get, you know, measurements and stuff. I do have a friend down in Florida who has fastbacks that are uncut, and so he's helped me with some of the measurement for the back window, just for verification, because I don't have a fastback obviously sitting around. But you know, it does pay to have spare parts or spare cars sitting around in your inventory. Damarine, thank you for another live Monday show. Well, thank you for showing up. I've got a wild mustache hair that's curling up and tickling my nose. That's always fun. So, anyway, I've been working towards getting. Well, I'm video number 10 for the Fango Fastback, and I'm addressing these fitment issues with the rain gutters and the roof. And I pointed out in that last video, whenever I was finishing up the video, that I put the rain gutters on, and I made the assumption that they were supposed to fit a certain way. And they are supposed to fit a certain way. However, I've come to realize that, of course, aftermarket parts are different than original parts. And when I was putting those rain gutters on, I'd set them at basically the highest point that I could get them. And I thought, this is where it belongs. And then I put the roof on, and the skin was fighting it. It was like, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. And I said in that video, I said the metal sometimes has to tell you a story. And that's kind of the way I envision these things. When I'm working on something, and I know it may sound corny, but I say it's telling me a story. Well, it's kind of telling me what needs to happen. Like, I see something it's not lining up, and by a matter of deduction, reverse engineering, let's say, I come back to what can I do to change this or this or this to make all of it feel better, right? So that's what I was saying last week. It's telling me a story. And since then, I've realized that these rain gutters, they're not meant to be up super tight as high as you can get them, because it actually interferes with the way the roof fits. So all the interactions, up here at the A-pillar where it overlaps, and the front edge where you can see the clamps, all that has to jive. It all has to be in agreement before something happens. Before you do any welding or anything like that. So I've been today walking around, taking measurements, adjusting here, adjusting there. Put the roof on, take the roof off. Put the roof on, take the roof off, because that's how you have to do it. A lot of people think, like, and I get it. They think, okay, I'll buy these pieces and just push them together and it'll be fine. But it's not like that. Because whoever built this or assembled these pieces, they may not have had them in the right spot either. And now you're adjusting something that somebody else did. And, the people that have bought these as a complete body find out that, hey, whoever put this together, they didn't do it right. And they ended up taking it apart because they don't fine tune this stuff. They don't make the details happen. They just kind of, that's close enough. Somebody else can worry about it later, type of thing. And that's not how I do things. So, it's the car's talking to me, and that's what I like. I like to have that. Thomas Reyes, hi Barry and everyone. My question is, what opinion on these electric AC units for 70 Mustang? Electric AC units? I guess I'm not familiar. I haven't researched those at all, so I don't have an answer for you. Good question, but I have not seen those, so I don't know anything about them. But let's see what else we have coming down in the chats. Robert says electric AC units require 50 to 80 amps to run. Alternators, even high-end ones, don't put out that kind of power reliably at idle, let alone power the rest of the car. That's a good consideration. Without knowing anything about them, I'm going to take your word for it because you know more about them than I do. But I've not seen... The only electric power units I know about are ones you put on top of the RV. So I'm really not hoping we're putting one of those on top of a Mustang. But yeah, 50 to 80 amps is a lot. So I wonder what the alternative is. Like, I have seen cars that have run multiple alternators. I have seen that. And usually somebody's got a super high power stereo system and they'll have extra alternators running. But I wonder what the manufacturer recommends, because if they require that much, that I don't know what they again, I don't know anything about them, so I've never even looked into them at all. But I'm wondering what the options are to add more power. Thank you, Robert. TJ says, Barry the Metal Whisperer. Yeah, in a way. I get it. Yeah. Robert, great idea for hybrids, but for gas cars you need dual, very large alternators to run them. So there you go. So that's what I was saying. I've seen big, double, at least 2 alternators on cars that have some big high power stereo system, but without really knowing anything about the AC stuff, I don't know. I just have to trust Robert, and I do. Hey, Matt, go man. I'm not at I am not at this place on my car, but the seat risers have you removed or lowered? At 6'3", I would like a little more room. Actually, if I remember correctly, let me process here for a second. I have not replaced seat risers with an updated version of the seat risers. Now I think, and somebody probably knows for sure, I'm thinking the Cougar seat risers are lower. I think. But I don't know for sure. But I something tells me in the back of my head that the Cougar seat risers are lower. But I don't know. The alternative is you cut it apart and modify it. You know, cut whatever an inch out of it or whatever, half inch, whatever you can get out of it to try to bring it down. You know, and that's just, it's not that complicated. I mean, you could cut the wear off the flange off and then cut an inch above that, and you can lower the thing down. You have a little bit of tight fitment on the inside. Like once you drop it, because the rocker panel's straight and the tranny tunnel is at an angle. So if you lower that down, you're going to have to compress that metal, essentially. You're going to have to make room for that to sit down in. And Robert says, the Cougar ones are shorter. I couldn't remember the name Cougar. Okay, so that's what I thought. I thought the Cougar ones were shorter, but I don't know how much. Thomas says, thank you, you're welcome. C&J, hello all. Did you try the doors back on? Now that you lifted the back up a bit, should help with the gap that you had going on. I have not. Not yet. And I know that there's still conflict with the shape of the quarter panel. And I understand what you're saying. Like if you can angle the rear frame rails up, that'll help index the quarter panel. The problem is you can only go so far. Like the wheelhouse, you have to set the wheelhouse in the right spot. If you raise it up, then you change other things. And each kind of checks itself, like, you know, how it fits and how it goes. But I haven't put the doors back on, but I did have the doors on, yes. But that was just checking fitment, alignment, and that sort of thing. And more of that'll come later. But right now, I have not reset the doors. David says, I'm seeing door hinges behind you. Yes, the door hinges are on the car. I've got both the upper and lower in place. I did have the doors on the car. I think 2 videos ago, I think I showed it all like assembled. We showed the fenders and the doors on. So I just haven't, I'm just going to leave them on there. There's no reason to take them off at this point. And the difficulty too is, you take these bolts out and that plate a lot of times falls inside. So just leave them in place for now and see what happens. Man, every time I talk, my mustache is tickling my nose. I'm not used to talking all the time, So, but that's coming as far as getting the roof and the rain gutters on, get all that set. And of course, that'll lead to the firewall and the front section, the frame rails with the aprons on them. So I'm not addressing anything forward of the A-pillars just yet. I want to make sure I have everything good that direction before I start moving this direction. And I have to take, unlike these panels aren't going anywhere, but I have to take the firewall out so I can punch holes in it so that I can weld in the torque boxes. So when I set all this in place, I actually have the torque box sitting inside here, the upper half, to take up space, because you can easily start putting things together and realize hey, I forgot this piece. So by setting that torque upper plate in there, I've allowed for the space of that to go underneath the firewall to make sure everything's in the right spot. And I actually showed something. You'll see it in a future video. I talked about these rain gutters and how the length may be off. And I did a comparison today with the trim that goes, the drip rail trim, and sure enough, it was off. It was a different length. And so that's, these are the things that come into play. And I know somebody had posted some other videos where they talked about that. They said, hey, I know they pointed out on the driver's side, it was like an extra maybe 1/4 inch long. And that's what I'm seeing with the trim. So, it's just another one of those things where you double check to make sure things are fitting the way they're supposed to fit. But other than that, I don't have much else going on with what you see behind me. I'm trying to get, make sure everything's going to fit before I do the welding, because I will be welding on the quarter panels, regardless. If I decide to put the roof on, like I need the quarters to be on before the roof goes on. It has to go in that sequence, and the rain gutters have to go on before the roof goes on. But once I have all that indexed and in place, then the roof can go on at any time after we look at doing a roll bar. So it's just one of the sequences scored. But also I'll point out that once I get this together and figure out the roll bar and get all the panels aligned and stuff like that, of course I'll have to work on getting the suspension under it, and that'll be hopefully not too far down the road that I can start piecing that together. And I think it's going to be my initial response or my initial look at the suspension parts. If you remember back when I did the convertible, the Brooklyn Pony car, the TCI products were they have a channel that slides over the rear frame rails, and you weld that to the channels, or you weld that to the frame rails. And when I was doing that car, the channels were made to fit factory frame rails, and I had a problem with that because the dynacorn ones are actually thicker. And so when I was trying to put that channel up over the dynacorn frame rail, it wouldn't go. And I ended up taking it and cutting the corner off of that channel so that I could put like 2/3 of it up on one side, and then bring the other piece up and then weld the seam on the corner. And I think when I was doing some test fitting of the new product, my mind is telling me that it would actually fit over the frame rails. So I don't know if TCI decided to change it and say, hey, let's make it fit the dynacorn rails, but we'll find that out once I get to that point. But I feel like it's going to be better to put together than it was on the Brooklyn Pony car. Mr. Mikey says blunt nose scissors will get those wild nose hairs chop. Yeah, well, it's not my nose hairs. It's actually the mustache. They want to pop up, and it's irritating. And all day I'm not talking. I'm just out here doing my thing. I'm not rambling away. So I don't have that issue. But every time I want to get on, do the live stream, it's like, hey, we're here. What else was there? Oh, I wanted to say I stopped by. A buddy of mine has a shop called Atlanta Auto Restoration, and when I went to get my welding gas late last week, his shop is only like 2 miles off of the path, the return. And I thought, you know what? I haven't been to his shop in a while. And so I stopped by and I hung out with him for a little bit. And it was good because we were able to talk about, some things going on, and I got to look at stuff that he's doing, and I in some ways I envy what he's doing because he has one, two, three, I think 3 or 4 buildings that he is running that have, one is like the assembly shop, and then there's the paint booth. Maybe it's 3 buildings, and the other one is all the like body work and primer and stuff like that. And he had a lot of cars going. He's got probably just in the assembly line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 cars that he's putting together right now. And then he had in his paint area, he probably had another 7 or 8 cars. And then in the body shop area, he probably had 8 or 9 or 10 cars, and then a few sitting outside. And so, what I think back to whenever we had the body shop, and we had a huge building, and the paint booth and the frame machine and all that stuff. And it was great to have access to that. It was great to be able to just turn loose on something and get work, get stuff done. But like I said, some ways I'm jealous of what he has, but in other ways I'm like, I don't want the headache. He's got probably 10 or 15 employees, I guess. And, dealing with all the customers and dealing with blah, 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 all these different things. I'm like, I told him, I jokingly said, if you ever need any help, don't call me. I don't want to be over here, but it would be nice to have that kind of facility. So, what else was there? There's not much else going on. I know that I had a conversation with somebody who they found a barn find 69 Mustang, and they were talking to me about it, and they were asking some questions about it, and they said, do you know where this car is? And I thought, because it was local to me, and they said, I don't want to tell you anything about this car because you might already know about it. And I was like, I don't know of any other 69 Mustangs sitting around, anywhere near me. And finally, he did let me know who has it and where it's at. And it is a barn find. It's going to need a complete restoration. It's not, I wouldn't say it's in the best of shape, but it's all there by the looks of it. But he was apprehensive because he was thinking, "Oh, I'm going to run over there and try to buy this thing," and I'm like, "No, I don't have room for what I have now." And besides, I already have my Mach 1, my 69. I'm not worried about anybody else's, car like that that's sitting around. So it may work out that I go with him to look at it because he was talking about addressing, trying to figure out what it needs. And so I said, let me know if you want me to, I'll go with you and we can look at it and I'll give you an assessment on it. So we're going to find out later on. Mr. Mikey, does car behind you have 2K primer on it already? No, this is weld through primer. That's the dynacorn weld through stuff. And typically I don't mess with this. Like I won't take any of this off out here. I mean, I'll scuff it and prep it, put some primer on top of this, but everything up on the outside, I strip off. I mean, I don't let anything on the exterior where it's going to get paint because it's just not worth it. Everything underneath is going to be fine, but I don't want to take a chance on having an issue with any of this stuff having flaws or, coming loose. So I just strip all the stuff off before I ever get into the paint process. So, but yeah, that's what that is. Weld through primer. What else was there? I know that there was. Oh, I went to a car show this past weekend, and it's unfortunate, in a sense, that the car show they have it the first and third Saturday of the month. And there's always some cool stuff there. There's always really neat cars, and it's a lot of the regulars that show up. But apparently they're not going to have it there next year, or my understanding of it. Not a conflict with the cars. It's a conflict with the complex that owns the property. So the place they do it is normally a pizza place, and apparently they're moving. They're getting out of there. So we're going to have to wait until they get that new place built before we are able to do more car shows with them. But it's one of those things. Steel Ponies, are you purchasing roll bar or building it for Fangled? We have it. The roll bar is already here. It's pre-bent. It's already, all I have to do is locate where I want it to go in the car. And that'll come into play. I mean, obviously we don't have interior. We're not going to worry about interior, but I will probably use maybe the original seats as a verification. So whenever I'll put like bolt seats in and take measurements and look at other roll bar systems to see where they end up, so that we don't have a problem with the future interior. So that's just some of the things you have to look at. But no, we already have the roll bar here. Good question. Don Marine, curious if you wax and buff the paint after done as another layer of protection. No, I don't. I've never, that I know of, waxed a car. I don't think, maybe once, maybe twice, like a daily driver type of thing. But I've not done a wax and buff on top of any kind of paint job that I've done. What I normally do, of course, I don't take like Jade. I didn't take it out and drive it all the time. And all I would ever do is use the Meguiar's One Touch, I think it's called, to clean it. So if I took it somewhere, I was going to a car show, or just taking pictures of it or something, I use that Meguiar's, I think it's called One Touch. And you just spray it on and take a like a terry, whatever these towels are, and just wipe it down, and it takes off all the dirt and cleans it up. But I have not done a wax. I do have a guy that I follow. He's actually one of my patrons, Amarante Detailing. He's got an Instagram page, and I think he's from Argentina, I think. And he does the ceramic coating stuff, and I don't know anything about that ceramic coating. I don't know how it works, what it does. I've never messed with it. The only thing I've ever used is some sort of like a turtle wax or something, just stuff where you rub it on and rub it off and hope that it does something. That's all I've ever done. But I've never done it to a car that I painted. No. Betty Keithley, good evening, Barry and everyone. She's saying, Jerry, go Buckeyes, great game. Okay. Glad you're here, Betty. Oh, by the way, the Steelers won. Just have to say that. The Steelers won. Robert says, my dad is the car cleaner and waxer. I have no desire to do that stuff. Yeah, I know that. I think for me personally, like my daily drivers, I don't care. I mean, I don't want it full of junk and trash and all that sort of thing. But I don't care. Like, the paint's faded on my little Honda. There's scratches and nicks on the other cars. I don't care, because the way I look at cars, these cars that I drive, they're just my commuter. They're just getting me from point A to point B. I heard a guy the other day. He was some wealthy individual, and somebody commented to him about, hey, you're still driving this old whatever it was. And he's like, yeah. He said, I'll drive it till it doesn't run anymore. And he says, you know, like, and I get it. We all need good vehicles and new vehicles sometimes, and work, you know, whatever. But his thought process was that he will get a decent beater car and run it until it doesn't run ever. And he doesn't spend over X amount of money, whatever it is, $3,000 or $4,000 on a car, and he just says, just commute, just drive with the thing. Don't worry about it being super duper. Like, obviously we want to have our hot rods, our Mustangs, Camaros. We want all that stuff to look good. And, you know, if you have a new vehicle, obviously you're going to take care of it and do all that sort of thing. But his mindset was he's not going to spend money on something that will never, you know, gain value over time, you know, as far as a driver car. So I have that. I mean, I'll take care of them. I'll change the oil and do all my work, and we'll keep them clean and stuff. But man, he's absolutely right. You don't need to go overboard on certain things. Christopher Colassa. Welcome, Christopher. Interesting name. Haven't seen that one before. I was referred to your videos after cutting all rust on our 65. All that was left was the roof and A-pillars. Now starting from scratch with a one-piece floor would have been totally lost without your videos. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hear that a lot. I really do. And I'm glad to hear that, because that helps me with my processes and how I do things and why I do things. Now, I know that there's, I don't know how many thousands of people have watched my videos, and I've had some people who have, they're not car people even. They're like, they just watch my videos and they said, I still learn stuff from your videos even though they don't work on these cars. And so I try to make sure that I'm not coming off as arrogant or that I know everything, but I try to make my videos like I'm a home builder is in effect. So I don't have the high dollar machine and this and all this other stuff, and I'm doing stuff with my hands and with simple tools, but there's a lot of people that don't show you all that stuff, and I'm glad that you are taking advantage of that and it's helping you with your project. So that's very cool. Thank you for that. My voice is going already. It's only been it's been 43 minutes. My voice is getting. Can you tell my voice is getting? It's already rough, but it's getting rougher. Let me see what I can do here. Hold on a second. Oh, Rusty says he sent me a picture. Okay. Let me see what we got. Hold on a second. Got to spool up. Let me see here. So, Rusty has won a top 40 award at a car show. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go. There you go. Top 40 out of 250 cars. That's pretty good. Can't complain about that. That's what he says here. He got his top 40. Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Give you a bell for that. Pull that picture down. Dave Tyson's, you are down to earth. Well, thank you for that. And that's, I mean, I've said it before. I'm just an I'm an average guy. I mean, I have a lot of background knowledge. I have a lot of skill sets, and there's nothing to be gained by assuming things about people. You know, I've had people. I've had very few complaints about my videos. I've had a few times where people are like, "You talk too much. You know, get to the point. Blah blah blah." And I don't like that, because when I'm doing a video, I can't assume that everybody has done X, Y, and Z. It just doesn't. It's not fair to them. Even if those people have done X, Y, and Z, my X, Y, and Z might be a little bit better, a little bit different than what they have done, and it will help them out, maybe. But when people start saying, "Oh, you're taking too long, you're doing this and that, whatever," I don't care what they have to say. I'd rather get the point across to everybody so that they can learn from it and take advantage of the information. So yeah, I just try to be, you know, my same old normal everyday person. But thank you, Dave. Dumb Marine, your work is honest and exact. I'm still wondering why you don't have 1,000 live viewers right now. Yeah, I don't either. I don't get it. YouTube hates me. YouTube hates me. Eric Norman, that's a new name. Welcome, Eric. What is the average cost of replacing a full floor pan in a 66 Mustang? Well, let's back that up a step. So, when you say a full floor pan, are you talking about the full pan from the front of the doors all the way to the tail panel of the car? Or are you talking the interior full floor pan? Big difference. So let's narrow that down before we get answer that question. Terry Keith, how are you doing with your hearing aids? I haven't had them in for this whole, like, the last week. And the reason for that is I've been wearing earmuffs a lot. With all the grinding and hammering and different things that I've been doing, I've been wearing earmuffs. And so the problem is these earmuffs, standard earmuffs, have a very small kind of opening, right? And so with those on, it's pressing it into my ear. And, have it on for an extended period of time. I'm like, you know what? For now, if I'm out here, I'm just going to use earmuffs and not worry about it. But otherwise, they have been doing great for other purposes when I'm outside of the garage. But as of right, it's just difficult because you put those on, and then you put on some glasses or safety glasses, and then you put on earmuffs, and now you've got all this stuff pushing against your side of your head, and it's like, I'm not comfortable. So for now, I'm not using them out here. But otherwise, they've been great. So thank you. C&J Barry, you are what inspires us to do these cars and put them back on the road. Well, thank you. That's awesome. Steel Ponies, Jeff, most YouTubers tell you what they're going to do, but then show the finished product and not how they got there. Your videos are very helpful and informative. Thank you for giving us this knowledge. Well, thank you, Jeff. You're welcome. I know when I was first starting out, first making videos, I was kind of doing that kind of thing. And the reason for that was I had limited capabilities. Like I was using not a GoPro, but I was using just a little handheld camera. And I would talk about what I was going to do. And I would actually point and say, I'm going to cut this and do this and weld that and do this. And then I would show it afterwards. Now that was my earlier videos. And as I progressed, I realized that there's more value in seeing the work being done. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to start getting more in front of the camera and showing what I'm doing so that people can understand and see what's happening. It's kind of like, I was talking about these rain gutters earlier. And I did a video sequence of some fine tuning of the metal on the other side. and I did it in regular time. A lot of times I'll do time lapse, just to, because it helps get through it. Get through it, and you can see what I'm doing. But in this one, I did in regular time, and I'm showing a hammer and dolly and what I'm doing and why, in effect, to make these things work. And it's one thing, like I said, you can point at something and talk about it, and there it is. But showing it and why you're doing it makes a world of difference. Richard Vogel, what plasma cutter can you recommend? Actually, I at this point would recommend. The one I've been using is. Let me think here. I have two of them. So I have an Arc Captain Cut 50, and I have a Yes Welder. I forget what the model number is, but either one seems to work fine. I've used the Arc Captain, no issues. I've used the Yes Welder version, no issues. So I did videos on those too. So if you go back and look up plasma cutter on my YouTube channel, you'll find those videos, or at least I know you'll find one for Arc Captain, and there will be a link down below in the description box for, like, if you want to, buy one or something. But there's at least there's probably 3 videos now that I think about it, because I did one on Harbor Freight years ago, and then I did one for the Yes Welder and one for the Arc Captain. So check those out. Christopher, also have a 99% rust-free 69 Mach, and a kid has a Nevada 66 Coupe with a built J-code 302 AOD and narrowed 8.8. The 66 is a missile with a 373 track lock gears. Ooh, I like it. I like it. That sounds cool. Nice. Very nice. David, most of the really popular shows do a restoration in 30 minutes. That's not reality. It takes time. You're 100% correct. In fact, I saw a video on, whatever the chip foose was, right? Where they would steal a guy's car and then rebuild it. And they talked about how to make that episode, which was like an hour long, it was like months of planning, because you're not just going to take somebody's car and like rebuild it and, we got all the parts, here we go, let's put it together. Well, what they found was, not only did they do it in a week, all the actual work, but I said every single car that left that place had problems. They were not running right, or they had this or that or the other. They had to bring them back in after the show and redo things and all that sort of stuff. So it was like they show you this condensed version of this car being restored, and they've got like 50 or 100 people working on it around the clock trying to get things done, and it still wasn't right. But they said they had months of planning just to get parts lined up and get people lined up and get all that stuff. So yeah, nothing's quick in reality. Stefan Therm, greetings. Here's my question on 69 Fastback. If the quarter panels are off, would you salvage dented but original outer wheel wells, or would you replace them? The dents are big. That's a tough question to answer. And the reason for that is I don't know what the dents are. So if you're talking about dents on the cupped radius where the quarter panel meets it, that's going to be a tough fix. That's going to be a really tough fix. If you're talking like dents on the flatter surfaces, that's not a big deal. Now, the choices you may have, instead of replacing the, let's say replacing that whole thing, the outer wheelhouse, you could probably buy a dynacorn wheelhouse and back cut it and weld it back together, butt weld it back together where it fits. If you do that, I highly recommend you get it, position it, cut it big, so your metal is overlapped, like at a good inch or so, right? You fit the quarter panel on, you squeeze the wheelhouse, a new piece out, and clamp it in place, and either run screws or whatever you want to where the two pieces are together. And then your choices are either weld it like it is or cut it, weld it together in segments. So you want to keep that distance, that spacing correct. I don't want you to think you have to take out the entire wheelhouse. You may not have to do that. You may be able to just piece it in and take care of that same problem, but just make sure you test fit all that stuff together. And then once you get that verification, that overlap, you could cut right through that overlap, take off the piece from one and the other, and work them together and tack them back in. So it's nice if you could save original stuff like that, but without seeing it, I can't give you an honest answer on that. I mean, I can't give you an opinion on saving that in particular. Troy, I agree with the sentiment about your help. I was taught by a collision guy, and of course he told me to overlap panels and tack them. You showed me the right way to make it look right. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, collision, they do things a lot different. Stefan, I have aftermarket wheel wells on hand, by the way. Okay. Well, I don't know what brand you have. Dynacorn probably has the best panels for that. But like I said, if you can, everybody looks at it and they go, oh, the only way I can do this is to cut this whole giant flange off and take all these pieces apart and get this back in there and blah, blah, blah. If you go back to my Mystique videos, the 65 Mustang coupe that I did, I rebuilt the driver's side quarter panel and wheelhouse. And I actually took that because the roof structure comes down and sits on top of the wheelhouse, right? There's a box. I cut that out. Left the flange because the flange is horrible to separate. I cut a flat line, let's say a vertical line, left that flange in there, and then I sectioned the new piece up there. And I had to cut that. I think I had to cut that one twice because the panel was not the right dimensions. I had to shorten it a little bit. But I did the same thing. I clamped in the quarter panel, made sure everything fit, and then worked my way back in to that. So, Mr. Mikey, your early floor pan plug weld videos were attention getters. Okay, cool. Dave Tyson, have you used the welding lens on your camera? I did actually, in the last video, when I was putting the sides on. So Fangwood Part 9, I did put that filter on. It did work. I don't know if it did exactly what I wanted it to do, but it did work. So, Jack W. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, Jack. How soon do I come up there back to New Jersey and go for a ride in your fastback? Stefan, great advice. You're welcome. Yeah, like I said, everybody wants to think of it as an entire thing whenever you can break it down into a smaller kind of piece, let's say. Marine, good night, Joe Daddy. Time to put the kiddo to bed. See you next Monday. Yes. Glad you were here and checking in. Desert Rat Fabrication. Hey, Barry. Hey, Rat. Okay. My voice is getting very irritated. My throat's rough. So it's been an hour. That's probably long enough for me to just be rambling. But my throat is hurting. So we had some great questions, and I'm glad that they were asked. And Jack says, not soon enough. Life always seems to get in the way. Yeah, I understand. So thank you all for participating. I will be back again next Monday. I guess that'll be the 15th. and we'll see what we can talk about then. Hopefully I've got some more done on this, and you can watch some other videos of the fangled fastback going together. But that'll be it for tonight. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.